We are honored to have Thiruvengadam sir here today to give us his take on light and sound efficiency with glass. So I'll welcome sir to start with his presentation.
Hi Shivani, thank you for you and Ethos for inviting me to this, for giving the opportunity to come and speak. Lighting is something which is extremely close to me. I'm an architect by qualification, but doing lighting for the last 10 years. I also teach architecture and lighting design at Sushant University. I'll start my presentation. Hope you guys can. Okay, so we'll be primarily focused about facade lighting and thereby zooming in on glass facade and how to light glass facade in particular. My name is Thiruvengadam, as already told Shivani. I apart from teaching, I also have a lighting design firm called Uri Design Studio. We do various kinds. So as I was saying, I had a firm, Uri Design Studio, where we do from house lighting to facade lighting to installation, and we experiment with light. Being an architect, we do dwell on creation of space in places, but the medium of choice for us has always been light. As you can see below, you can reach us on our website, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Going forward, facade lighting in as it's always been traditionally ascertained with lighting up any opaque facade or lighting the glass from inside. The problem with most of the things is that you require some features on the facade to light up the facade in some kind of manner, or it ends up being a flat lit surface. In this one of the projects that we did for in Bihar studies town hall for smart city Nalanda, we lit up the only element which you could find. There's a column, the back wall, and we highlighted the geometry of the structure. That's one of the most easier way to do facade lighting, and always been done for quite some time. If the facade is quite undulating or interesting or something which was a challenge, we try to recreate or exaggerate the elements of facade itself. So we are in one way lighting of facade created by architect who's trying to showcase the building in particular way. So we will exaggerate those very features and try to highlight that dynamism in the facade through our lighting. This particular case is a installation or a facade installation by our famous architect called Kulveer Bhati and Ritu Yadav of firm POD Design Studio. They engulfed a huge building with this clover leaf. Each leaf was about 4 feet and was made of fabric and on metal frame. So we, in one way, reversed the entire thing and highlighted the 3D geometry of the individual element, and we just underlaid the entire thing from below. When it comes to large scale, we tend to repeat one process so that in we can understand the magnanimity of the entire facade. In this case, by the same architect, they are expert in exhibition lighting, exhibition design. This was in Bombay, where they made a huge facade of 200 to around 250 meters for a Pedicon conference. We had they had put elements which repeat itself after every 5 meters. We just lit those elements and thereby creating a pattern or a rhythm. The idea for us is not to light the facade uniformly, as you can see at the back, but it's to give a illusion of the scale and the rhythm, and that's how we go. But it's much more easier to do in an opaque surface than it comes to translucent surface. When it comes to glass, we always have some challenge or other. This is our attempt at a glass lighting for a glass building which is already designed by GPM India, and it's in Pitampura. The problem with glass is that since you light up a surface and glass by its nature is transparent and it allows light to pass through, you can't light up a glass. So when you're saying you're lighting up a glass, you are either lighting up the surface behind the glass, or you are putting light on the glass. That's called a direct diffusion. In this case, we decided it's much more simpler. Since the building was already built and the client's need was for us to, in one way, highlight the building at night. It's in a commercial complex which is badly lit in aspect, as the situation in most of our commercial districts, that people don't put much emphasis on how the building will look at night. So at night, this was looking like a dead facade because glass. So he tried to light it up in various ways. Finally, we give a proposal. We will be going with it for next 6 months or so. We lit up the glass. If I can just play the video. We light up the glass by putting dots on the glass, and we try to make it dynamic, simple. We can make it more, we can program it. Each dot can be programmed in one particular way, and they can act as a pixel. So we can write the name of the group, or we can do branding by it. We can use it for advertising. Thereby, we realize that the glass has much more potential than just doing it in simply by putting dots on the surface. So we try to explore glass lighting in more detail as a firm, and realize this is something which we need to find more footing in. We could not find much of Indian examples, so we're looking at examples all over the world, and we studied how exactly people abroad are trying to light up transparent or transparent surface. Going forward, what we realize is one of the easiest way to do is not light up the glass top. And instead of lighting up the glass, if we can just highlight the geometry or anything opaque surface, or just draw a line. In both the cases, if we see this is a hotel building where the interiors are lit as per the occupancy of the place. The main feature, they lit the crown on the top. On the right side, what we see is that they are trying to light up by exaggerating the element, the fin of the building, and not letting the glass as such. So even that defines the geometry. The idea of facade lighting is also to give the building an identity. So you might be more and make it look slightly more different from the daytime. So there is something more to look at when you look at the building at night. And when we talk to the building, we are also going to define the building in an urban skyline. Where we are thinking, okay, look, this is the skyline of the city. My building stands out differently. Now, in that logic, these things rather are put simply, easily done. And also, in one way, for economic reasons, these are preferred because these kind of lighting are also economically efficient. Other way is to put fixtures on the building, like we did dots on the glass. Here also we can either put dots or linear or anything on the structure or on the glass, thereby lighting that instead of the glass itself. So what you see is a pattern that is created by light fixtures on the glass. So you don't see the glass lit, you see something on the glass that's lit. Usually these are put on the structural members that are supporting the glazing, or that's a, a new element is introduced to put the lighting fixture. Lastly, what most of people doing is to put a surface behind the glass and lit that surface. That gives you an illusion of a plane, or an illusion that the glass is being lit that way. Like I said, glass can't be lit. It is the surface that's behind the glass is lit. It can be a structural member or a screen. In this case, it's a screen which is lit. This looks dynamic because each member, if you can see on this side, like this here, that can be programmed to generate a particular color. So they have programmed it to look like a spectrum of light. We will try to understand this more in detail by looking at various examples and how people have done those particular lighting. Louvre building, one of the most famous building by I.M. Pike. It is not lit, but but the lights inside light up the frame as such. So when you're letting the glass, since we need to understand put emphasis on the geometry of the surface, we are not lighting up the glass as such, but we are but we're flood lighting it or up lighting it. If you see, this is light source here, where they place the light, and in detail it's here, where we are uplighting the entire surface, and we are showing these members in contrast. Since the inside is lit, you see these members in contrast, and you have an illusion that the entire space is lit, which is lit in one way. The other way is one more example: not to light the glass, but light the inside structure. So in daytime, you see the glass facade. At night time, you see the surface that is holding the glass facade in question in more detail. So if you see inside the RC structure, that is being lit by the facade, not the glass as such. you do see the glass member, but since that occupies the volume, our attention goes to. So the thing of lighting is that we will look at the brightest source at any in our horizon. So if you're looking at one particular picture or one particular frame, whatever is more brighter, our eyes will be drawn to. So in this picture at night, if you can imagine, this glass building will exist, but your eyes will be drawn to what is being lit behind it, and that is what lighting is about. Okay, where we are trying to create contrast or create one lit plane, and we'll try to be drawn towards it or see it in more detail. So here you will be looking at these building aspects and the and the internal structure. This is a better view of the same photo, and imagine it. This is a bit more dark. So the photo is at either dawn or dusk. It's not completely night. So when it's completely dark, the contrast will be even more evident to us. Now, how do people light it up? We try to light up the surfaces that is there. So that's a simple thing, that light is placed on the glass structural glazing element, lighting it up at the back. And some light is placed in interval. So that's the structure that's there. That's the glazing. This is our attempt at the sketch of what they've done. They've also, so this I presume is the lift, and they've also highlighted all other things in a similar way. And that is the railing which is lighting up the top deck. That's the more detailed space. When we light up a facade at night, it's much more interactive. It's not a dead building that's facing the street. This being a public street, it's much more interactive to have something like this rather than having a dead facade. That's the English National Ballet, but Bureau Apple. This here, the glass is translucent, and we are doing nothing to light the glass. We are lighting up the internal space inside. So here, this is the light which is embedded in the entire thing, and we create a flat lit surface on inside the place. That gives the illusion the glass is lit. So if you look at this, the light is here, and you see the lit space. So the ceiling and all is lit. So what you see here lit is not the glass; it is the ceiling behind it and that's the bounce of light from the floor that's creating this illusion. The light is placed on top and facing downwards. It's because the glass is in particular way frosted and plain in a particular angle. You see this being lit in this particular way. And architecturally, this is a bit more poetic in nature. Okay, you have to understand that instead of just washing the light, it does become a bit gimmicky if not done properly. So it is this offers is much more poetic in that respect. One more example, Stephen Hall is very famous building of Stephen Hall, the Acting Museum. Now here they have put a screen behind to light up, which is being lit. The same concept as before, we're lighting up, but instead of structure, they have put a simple transparent screen which is being lit. This is the white painted. Uh, Even the structural members which is supporting glass are not that evident because it's been designed such. So it looks like a lit box. Look at from angle. It looks like a lit box entirely with just frames supporting it on all sides. That's the beauty of Stephen Hall, the mini movie. This in particular is a bit more detailed. The Zahid building, the Opus building in Dubai, where the horizontal members are being lit. So if you see the lights here, that is being lit. These are dots that placed on it, but these are lit. So there's an internal in between the two glass panes and the structural member. They have put a light strip inside, and that is what this is lit. This one of my personal favorites, that randomly at Oklahoma Center. Now, idea is not a glass building; it's an extrude aluminum building, but it is the way they have lit it that's beautiful. It is that the building doesn't look that it's being lit in a particular way until you see at night. The light is hidden inside. So between the glass and the aluminum, the light is inside, and you see the lit surfaces. Right? So, and that gives the effect of whatever it needs to do. Imagine this surface being lit. This is how sun washes it, and this is how it's lit in the night. Suddenly, the bulkiness of the entire structure is gone, and they have hidden the light inside each crevice, if you might say, or the extrusion, and lighting the surface that's just shown outside. That's the beauty of it. It's amazingly detailed, and the building, in all respects, inverses its heaviness at night. That's the one of the most famous lighting designer, Sira, has done the building in Croatia. It is programmed in a particular way where the horizontal members, if you can see, have lights integrated within them, which light each other members in particular way. And they, you can see in detail how it looks. Extremely pretty. So when done tastefully, this can actually program to our particular need. When we say programming, we can individually program the light, or we can individually program the light, or we can program them as a group. This is done both. So you see this effect, it's individually programming the light. And the building had a facade like this for it to be lit like this, for us to understand, look, this is what the lighting of it needs to be. We need to understand how. So it's not just one thing that puts all, it is a customized solution for each building. In each building has been designed in a particular way. The solution always might look generic, but they are customized for each kind of thing. It's easier to say, look, this just they are just letting a horizontal member. It is the way they are done it. It doesn't look bulky, and it in one way exaggerate those horizontal lines that the architect has chosen. Now, for this is at the background presentation, what we are saying is this is one of the most better ways of how a glass and lighting works. This is by Erco. Erco is a German brand of lighting, and here there are glass louvers that exist, and they have in particular put the light in between the louvers. Since the glass is transparent, the glass doesn't catch the light. They have put dots on the glass, like a frosted dot on the glass, which catches the light and shows the place to be lit. So it's not the glass that's lit, it is the dots that in between the glass that's lit. So the glass building with a lot of louvers, which is being lit in particular way. The light in particular are sandwiched between the two panels. You see here the light, here there's light, and it's randomly done as to us, but it's in one order to them. To them. You'll see a video to understand more in detail how it looks. That's the facade. See the dots? It's those dots that lit. Exact same dot, one behind the other. So this is a technology that we also use in signages. How when we light up signages, you see the backlit boxes are uniformly lit, and you technically you require depth access to light up the entire surface uniformly. Since you don't have depth, you create dots on it. It's called a light screen or something, and you light up that thing. It makes the illusion that it's uniformly lit. And then you program the light the way you want to and play with it accordingly. As a designer, idea is not to not have glass. It is to engineer it to a point where we can use the glass as a benefit rather than as an obstruction. It is so most of the lighting consultants that will try to do that only. They will try to use that element to their advantage. and see how pretty and graceful it looks. Final thing is to have individual members. The SUMA head office is in between the glass facade, which is lit in in, in one way. So these are the way where you put semi-opaque purposes, a semi-opaque surface at the back, and a glass in front where the light is there and the glazing is from up and below. This can be done in various ways. You can either surfaces or you can have mullions or structural mode which is lit in that respect. That to end, lighting is the lifeblood of the design. What we always believe and what makes our work interesting, that we try to show that whatever you design, it is lighting that makes it possible for us to see in a particular way. How do you stop sharing? Yes.
Thank you, sir. That was a great presentation, and we saw some great examples also. So let's start with you've shown us some really amazing ways of how glass can be lit, like not just backlit, and as you said, it cannot be lit from the front. So there are a lot of ways like hiding the light in the folds of the facade and highlighting glass using other elements of the facade of the building. So which is one of your favorite and most innovative ways that you feel?
There are two. My favorite is different, my note is different. Favorite will always be to light the structure inside the glass rather than lighting up the glass as such. The reason for that is at the end of the day, there is a question of maintenance that comes to that. And we are not dominating the architecture as such. Okay. And so it's way simpler for us, the client, the architect, to let the structure inside. And I think also the reason it is done in the Louvre Museum by IM Pi, that we tend to love it a bit more, but it is the simplicity of the solution that makes it good. Design doesn't need to be complicated. It is to simplify our life rather than complicate it. The innovative one is of course the the Arco facade building where they sandwich the glass and the panel and they lit the front. It could have been done in a different way as well, but that solution is ingenious in the way they did it. Okay, because it's Arco, those fittings, so they let iPhone of fitting, so it didn't forget kind of situation. So there's maintenance free in that aspect. But that solution as such is ingenious. The way they did it. It still has the lightness of a glass facade and can still become opaque the way we want the light surface to be at night. So that the duality of it makes it, and the way it is done, the picture is almost invisible. Unless it's lit, you don't see the picture. That's why is my favorite building.
And could you tell us one of your projects where you use something very innovative like this?
Yes, I can tell you. I will try to show possible. So we collaborate a lot, and I think for us the best has to be the projection mapping that we have done. I'm trying to put it. So in 2019, I think the last exhibition we did, we tried to the 1 second. It's not what we did, it's how we did it, and the entire procedure and the solution and how many people were got together. It was a very noble thing to do, and where the architect's intention was to show the world how much waste we are creating. Okay, so ISGF is a Indian handicraft some federation which has this biannual event at Greater Noida Expo Center where the Auto Expo happens. They have a where they call exhibitors from all over India, handicraft-based exhibitors, to promote and sell to the consumers of the world. So people like Target, IKEA, they all come to shop. And it's a wholesale thing. People buy thousands of pieces like that. So everything from coaster to light fixtures to tea to incense, all those things that's being as a handicraft we make, so that's shown. There we want to show the amount of consumption as the community what we're doing. The entire event was divided into three parts. The second part was when the people go for registration. Okay, that's a huge hall around 30 meter by 20 meter kind of space, where the where the architect had put a 80 feet or around 25-meter long whale, which weighs around 10 tons inversely, recreating the water. Okay, I'll show you the thing. I'll share the screen now. That is the whale. It's a huge whale, okay, around 80 feet, and it's done by metal, scrap metal mostly. And this at the below is the jeans waste, the jeans fabric that we use. So the wastage from there, and on top is pipe waste, the pipe that we cut after conduiting and all these things, and they used to clad that into, and all the fabric is completely waste that's been thrown. So from all the factories we gathered the waste and we created this very thing. This is projection mapping on done. So it moves, it was very dynamic, it's very interesting thing. But it had us, the architects, the factory engineers, the entire team who made it, the artists who designed it, the projection mapping people, the people who mapped it, people who gave us the projectors. These are huge 10,000 different projectors, which we got from model. And it was the idea was for us to collaborate to tell people, look, this is how much you're wasting. And it was very moving in aspect because it's a registration place. People have to stand and wait for half an hour at times to what their registration to happen. So in that respect, it did the work, and it communicated the message in the most perfect way possible. That's the idea.
It was a very beautiful project, actually. So, coming to the relationship between light and glass, so we've talked about it aesthetically. Do you think there is any functional relationship between light and glass when it comes to the facade?
Well, in today's time, it becomes extremely important for us to light up a building at night. Because what happens is that the way we are going, the way our society works in everything, only free time that you have to go out with the family or spend with the friends is at evening and night. Okay, no one is. We only do business lunches. We don't do family lunches at lunchtime. The weather also is such. It's also pleasing to go out at night rather than daytime. As a country, that's the thing. Most of it is hot and hot, humid or hot area. We so we spend the least amount of time in terms of seeing how the building will look at night. That's one. Secondly, glass is what is becoming increasingly the well, a symbol for many people, which represents globalization or Western power, and or in one way, the symbol of even look the building is modern. Okay, it's, we I might not personally agree to, but it is something that people relate to. Okay, when your audience is global, when your client is global, and most of the who have worked with, who are designing for, let's say, foreign brand, they want a glass building because they relate to as a contemporary building, because so they don't want a traditional building, they want a glass building. Okay, while they might be flawed in their idea, our idea is to accept what is given to them. I'm not the architect, I'm a lighting designer. So in that respect, we need to learn ways to light up the building at night. That's one. Secondly, even if the building is a building which you want to lease out or rent out to your owner, you need to have an identity at night. Okay, you need to be able to shout at night because it's finally a marketplace. The people are saying, "Look, my building is different. My building is different," and that's the entire fight about. There, I presume light is important. Okay. That it look at all great buildings. It will be a photo either of dawn or dusk or of night, because it does change the way the perception is, the how you see a building, and it removes the clutter from all over the place. The sky might not be nice, that's okay for us. The contrast might be nice, that's okay for us, because you are suddenly focused on something which is only lit, and that will be your building. Hence, for us, the glass and light plays an important role going forward.
That's right. So, while we are talking about the relation between the building and the context, can you suggest some site planning strategies according to some challenges you've faced when it comes to lighting?
Yeah, the biggest problem that comes in, that people think about lighting after it's done, or they think about it after it's done. That becomes a problem for any lighting company. The the second thing is that they don't think the lighting is required as such. That becomes the second problem. We need to understand the lighting as a subject and as the technology has evolved to an extent. where it is unfair for client to expect architects to do. He is already coordinating so much in, and it is not kidding. It's a whole plethora of things that is done that it is unfair to expect him to do. Electrical consultants are not entirely trained because they're also dealing with quite a lot. So lighting consultant is required to be brought on the board when, and that to be at a stage after which, before you start construction. It should not be like while constructing now, but now you do lighting. We are doing two glass buildings currently where we are doing it when the construction has begun. So we are already reaching against time. So the time for innovation is gone because you can't change the drawing much, you can't change the building much. So after the initial conceptual approval is there, we should bring the lighting consultant on board and we'll say, okay, look, this is what the building is. How can we light it up? Whatever necessary changes needs to be done, for example, the structural changes or the glazing detail changes, it can be done at the initial stages so that we are not firefighting at there. So that is one important aspect that we done. Secondly, I think we all need to understand that there is something called light pollution, and which is going to affect us in one way, nocturnal species, and also human beings who are not supposed to be awake at night. Okay, so it does affect the biology clock. So we need to light it up responsibly. So that comes second. We should not we should not, for the sake of publicity and everything, shout it out in one way, shout it metaphorically, instead of making a building shout from the top of a lungs to look at the sun. We need to, while we're lighting it up, we need to light it up responsibly. That needs to be second.
I was actually going to come to that as my last question. What is the most sustainable way to use light in facade?
Don't light it up. Okay, there is a balance. For best way to intervene, not to intervene. Okay, and nature will take its course and it will reverse whatever we have done. It is the all powerful being. It has brought us into life. It will know how to sort of mess even after we are gone. Okay, the best example being COVID. In lockdown, the skies were clearer, right? Uh, in the manner of days, it undid what we have done for years. So nature is this strength, but however, there is a reality that we live in. So it's like a balance between them. Okay, that's been it. So there are we need to make sure we don't create light pollution in that manner that we're polluting the sky to a level that is disturbing everything. That's one. Secondly, the consumption of water becomes important. So we need to ensure that there are many countries that which make sure that lighting nothing has to be on board, like a sector control has to be on board. Lighting control has to be on board for a project to be approved. So we need to go to that level of detail. So for internal lighting, facade lighting, all those things, that is to be approved and given by lighting consultant for us to be able to look at it. That will be the deciding factor for us in future. And trust in the designer who is designing, whether it's architect or engineer or anyone, who to give you the such solution. And all said and done, we are all self-conscious to that manner. See, by look, we should not. We understand there's a limit. In today's time, it is impossible for anyone to exist without realizing, look, there is a limit. We are all feeling the brunt of climate change. The weather in Delhi or the weather in Bangalore, the flash floods. We know it is not. We are not going the right direction, and we should undo the bad before it's seriously undone. So trust and designers, and they will take the best way forward.
And just one last question from my end. So we've talked a lot about the facade and the building from the outside. How do you
Yes.
think lighting a facade affects the internal spaces?
That's a very, very good question, and should have been one of the premier questions that how does and it is important when it comes to hotel and all the individual rooms. It's called light trespass when the unlit is coming inside the scene. So when it comes to direct view luminaires which are facing outside, you don't see much impact. When you have a solution like the one when the glass is sandwich, do see the impact. Okay, so that way you need to be very sure which space you are lighting in what way. So if it's a office building, then it might be an issue. But if it's a hotel or something, you need to be very clear. So the solution is not one fit that fits all. It needs to be with respect to the space that's behind. So that's why most of the time we light up the lift area or the lift well or the lobby or the concourse, which are public areas, so to say, which should have some light or the other. But the personal areas, let's say cabin, office cabins, rooms, hotels, or whatever, need to be designed in such a way that light doesn't go inside the room to disturb the sun. The primary occupation of the room should not be disturbed just for the sake of lighting. That's where the responsibility of the other designer comes in to light it in that particular way, which is I think is crucial for us to understand.
Thank you, sir. That was a very insightful session. I thank you for giving us your insight on this topic and letting us know what you think.